So,
So, yeah, so how are you? First of all, let's get warmed up. Yeah, how'd you feel?
ah, great, actually, amazing. I am looking so much forward to our talk.
Fantastic. That's really cool. Me
Yeah.
too. I've been looking forward to it. Yeah, ever since you said finally yes that you would do it. I had a really exciting workshop this morning as well, and it was what was one of the main sort of positive themes for me going into that was I also knew I had such a pleasant experience waiting for me on the other side. And that gave that gave me some confidence going into the workshop as well because I wasn't sure how that would turn out. So yeah, it's great. It's just good to have that that Friday feeling, and it's for such a positive reason too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm already recording,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so I mean, it's such a natural conversation, and we're both so yeah. I think the chemistry is fantastic when we talk as well, and considering I haven't seen you in such a long time, it's yeah, it's just good to be able to talk one to one with somebody in such an open way.
Yeah, I also appreciate very much that you asked if I would be interested or if I would be up to. So thanks for having me. And yeah, it's true we didn't see in a long time, but I can promise you we will run into each other this summer. I'm planning
Wonderful.
to come at least once or twice to Berlin. So
Okay.
COVID-19 allowing and so on and so on. But yeah, that's on the agenda.
Fantastic. Good. Okay. All right. And yeah, obviously, Lena will be extremely happy to hear that too.
Yes,
And yes, this time you could include me in your plans. Uh,
definitely, definitely.
good. Good.
And
Good. Good.
Levon.
Yes. 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 Though he'll be running around, I don't think he'll be too concerned with our topics. But anyway, maybe that's for him to learn and enjoy when he's a bit older. But yeah, I mean, normally people say, "Oh, you've got to do an introduction to the guest, as it were." But I don't want to consider you a guest. I'd like to consider you as somebody who's sort of moving in, especially to the podcast, because I would love to have you back on many occasions to talk about your developing ideas and the additional things that you have planned and so on. But I mean, there's nobody better to talk about yourself than you. And you do have a fascinating background as well, don't you? Because it's not too common, the person that you are, but also the experiences that you've had. Can you enlighten the public a little bit?
Yeah, I try my best to enlighten everybody when it comes to my person. So yeah, my name is Tanja, and my background is the following. So my father is Italian, and my mom is from former Yugoslavia. And I know that this country doesn't exist anymore. And I often get the question when I started like this, well, yeah, but that country is not there anymore. So which part from former Yugoslavia, like which of the new countries? Well, I stick to what my mom always says, and she refused to choose. So she said the country I was born in is former Yugoslavia, so that is where I come from. Plus, my family over there lives in different places. Like today would be different countries. And I was born and I grew up and got socialized in Germany, in good old North Rhine-Westphalia. North Rhine-Westphalia. Yes, that's where my parents met actually, and where they decided to stay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a combination of so much, as it were, and also initially, it's quite clear to see the roots of the character. That your mum refuses to bend to
Mm.
this sort of political will to categorize a person in a specific way, and she's quite clear then. No, that's how it is, and that also takes character. We have to recognize that.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely I agree 100%, and that is why I respect what she says, and so that is how I define. my mother's part. And I mean, I can also understand why. A part of that, I believe it's not easy if you are born in a country which then disappears as such. I mean, there are many people who, not only in the case of former Yugoslavia, also there are other countries who had vanished or rearranged on a geopolitical level. And so my mom is from a family, they've been 6 siblings. And if I understood her right, that every child was born in another region of ex-Yugoslavia. So
Wow.
so that is like, okay, one in nowadays Serbia, one in nowadays Bosnia, one in nowadays Croatia, one. So what are you? You know. Then my grandfather is from one region, and my grandmother was from another region. And then like for example, my uncle, the brother of my mom's, he married my auntie, and she's again from another region, and so that is also like it's all mixed up. So if it comes to, of course, my family on the Balkans lives mostly in one country. But the dot.
Full stop. No, fair enough. I mean, what is great is that you love diversity. You embrace diversity, and people, I think, far too quickly forget the beauty there is to be found in diversity. If we were all the same, how boring would life be?
Yeah, totally. And that is also when it comes to my own heritage. I mean, you said so at the beginning in the introduction that is quite an unusual mixture. I actually know only 2 other people who have this mixture. Like it's more common that your parents, if they are immigrants to a country, mostly come from the same country. So you have an Italian man with an Italian woman, or a Spanish with a Spanish, and or you have an Italian with a German in Germany,
Sure.
or German with an Italian in Italy. But so I'm like mixed between 3 countries or 3 regions, 3 cultures. And I liked it. I appreciate it.
And I mean, the confidence that you obviously your parents have, but you've also inherited because your work has taken you to areas of with around the world which are in many ways considered perhaps a minimum problematic, but you seem to have thrived within these experiences, and they've also formed a part of who you are today, have they not?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been working over a decade, specifically in crisis-torn and war-torn countries, where you have a great degree of insecurity and also violence. So so I did that in the frame of the German Development Corporation. So I used to work for a couple of years in Afghanistan, around about 4 years in total, and my last destination was Lebanon. And of course, as you can see, that they are so, like, even only considering Afghanistan and Lebanon, like it's both countries are so different, and the topics, because it was not an accident that I ended up doing this kind of work. It was a very conscious decision after I finalized my studies. Yes.
Yeah, and how did you, because I mean, the question of integration is particularly topical. It has been topical for many years, actually, so that's not a novel thing to say. But I mean, how did you feel when you became the immigrant? I mean, were you sort of subject to standard integration problems, or, did the organization take care of that for you? Did you feel that you fit in? Was it your role to fit in? As in, any angle you wish to take this from, please, feel free.
Okay, so for example, when I started, maybe a good point to start is Afghanistan. So I went there in 2005, 2006 first, working for an Afghan NGO, and I was the only woman by then working there and the only not Afghan person. So and if I go somewhere, even if I go on holidays, on vacation, I've been traveling a lot because this is just one of my biggest passions, and so I consider myself as a guest. So I try and to understand pretty quickly what am I supposed to do, what not, because as a guest I don't want to offend anyone. That is at least where I come from, rational wise. So in Afghanistan back then, for example, I covered my head. I always wore long trousers and very long blouses or stuff. And then the other thing is that I have Mediterranean features, so dark hair, dark eyes. So if I put this type of clothes, I easily get identified as an Afghan or as an Arab, for example, like also in other countries. That happened a lot. Like I consider myself being lucky that I can merge in quite easily, which is like in Afghanistan, it's much easier for me to
fit in, perhaps?
To fit in, yes, exactly, to fit in than, for example, somebody with blonde hairs and blue eyes. So yeah. And the other thing is I never had like a question which mostly comes up is then, yeah, but as a woman in a country where women's rights are not like on the forefront, how were you able to do your work? Also later when I worked for the German Development Corporation in the Northeast. And that is, I think I've never been considered as a woman, like as a woman, but as a man, as a kind of a man woman or woman man. Like I'm obviously a woman, like from my like biologically, yeah, but the like. The amount of opportunities I had, the decision making I could undertake, the way I moved, made people I'd say comfortable to work with me. So I sincerely never faced discrimination. I mean, I don't know what had been talked about behind my back, but I wouldn't know that in Germany or in any other country either. But yeah, so that's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find these things fascinating. I mean, woman, woman, man, because the topic has been raised when I've spoken with other people that they've said that, for a woman to succeed in a predominantly man's world or a man's field or sector or company, she has to almost behave a bit like a man. And then, having done so, they've then sort of reflected upon that and said, but that's wrong, because what I represent and what I give to an organization is in and through my womanhood. So I shouldn't have to be that in that way. But, obviously, women who do this are not given that choice and perhaps sometimes feel they have to follow a certain line. Does this also bear some resemblance to how you did things, or was that different? You were still, as you say, woman in this department.
Like if we talk about my time in Afghanistan, it was a bit different than that. What you are now explaining, I know that, of course. I guess every woman or most of the women have this kind of experience when it comes to work and maybe competitiveness. But in Afghanistan, it was rather the attributions giving to my person, because as a project manager and then later as the head of the project, I was in charge of certain things. So the attribution behind that were, okay, she's the one who makes the decision for this particular project or for whatever, like not in general, but for certain things. So, and this amount of decision making power, I am so interested into history and into different cultures. So I really absorb things when I'm somewhere, and I like to see everything, and I like to understand everything, and I'm asking like tons of questions, and I didn't hold back when I was working there and when we were visiting the communities we were working together with, and when we were sitting with the elders and discussing things. So this curiosity, this is they interpreted it in a they took it in a very positive way. Like they saw, they believed me, or they felt my interest.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't search a job and then I ended up in Afghanistan. I wanted to go to Afghanistan, and then that is why I was searching specifically for this kind of jobs. And so that and I did this decision twice. So when I went there in 2005 and 2006, I came back, I added a postgraduate master, but when I left Afghanistan in late summer 2006, I knew after the master I would come back. I knew, and I did.
A further example of your determination, I think, no less. The thing is, the things that you say are so fascinating. I mean, we could spend hours talking about this alone. What would be perhaps cool would be upon the return, when I get you back here on a further occasion, then we can delve into each topic sort of individually a bit more deeply. But there are so many things to discuss today specifically with you, and to open up our discussions upon, that it would be a shame not to move forward with these other topics. So I mean, culture is, as you mentioned, you are hugely interested in culture, and one of the main elements of culture is dance, music and dance and so on. So, you have a specific passion for dancing. Was this inspired from a certain ethnic dance, or have you always been interested in dance?
No, I actually have always been interested into dance. Like really, like as a child, and in music. I still have tapes, like cassettes, like the old school ones which I recorded, playing my flute and singing awfully, but singing. I was just singing, screaming, having fun, and and I actually always loved to dance. My mom also, and my parents. I remember that when I was small, like 7, 8 or so, they taught me how to dance twist, because that is what they used to dance beforehand. And So yeah, and then I actually I think everybody my age knows, and not only my age, knows the movie Dirty Dancing, which came into the cinema, which was played in the cinema when I was, I think, 12 or 13. I don't remember. At least I know that I watched this movie in a cinema, and then I was lost. I think like hundreds of thousands of other girls that age all over the world, and and then I decided to join a dancing school with, I think, 14 or 15. Also, like everybody does, like we were, like half of our class, of our former class, went to a dance, like ballroom dance, you know, and then I continued. I did that for like maybe 3 years or so. Dancing also in a Latin American formation with, like, we were like 12 couples, and we had some shows. Like, it was, today I would say it was quite cute. Back then it was like the world. It meant the world to me. We were like training 3 times a week, and we had specific costumes and everything. And then then what happened was, actually life happened, and I stopped this ballroom dance when I did my Abitur, when I finished high school. And then and then I discovered the whole wide world, and started my university time. So that I didn't focus on this kind, like this partner dance. But dancing was always meant a lot. I was going out with friends to clubs, like we have this individual kind of dance. You know? So yeah, I love that. And then I remember when I came back from Afghanistan, 2010, and I knew I would be based, at least what I thought back then, for 2 years minimum in Germany, in Frankfurt. I was like, okay, I'll check out the dancing scene and I will go and dance, but I didn't do. I simply didn't do, because don't ask me why. I didn't do. Sometimes we have dreams and we forget about them. And 4 years, like nearly 4 years ago, I decided to then really restart again. And I started with salsa and with bachata. I started with salsa, Cuban salsa, and salsa cubana and salsa New York style. And then while joining social dances, I like bumped into bachata sensual, and I fell in love with that dance. And this is like actually currently my main focus. I am not a professional dancer at all, but I love it. I do it, and I'm luckily I have the chance to dance and to train around about twice a week with somebody. So even through the whole throughout the whole COVID period, when the dancing schools and dance companies were closed, and that did a lot to me. Yeah, and I swore to myself that I will not stop it again.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I've made a note of this term that you used, the dreams, that for some reason you had your dreams and you'd forgotten about them. And I think it's amazing how often we allow this to occur, and how rare it is that we somehow manage to find our way back to those dreams. But you have. You're living it, but you've also added to it, because you mentioned a specific kind of dance. You said you mentioned the sensuality element of it, but now it's become more than a dance, hasn't it, for you? There's an entire platform there that has formulated in your thinking.
Yeah, I love how you how you guide me to this topic.
inexorably.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, that's true. So maybe, yeah. So what actually happened is that picking up this like restart dancing or rediscovering dancing for me made a lot, because it makes a lot with people. That is really what I believe. And not only that, also some other occurrences in my life during the last 2-3 years made me focus a bit more on facets of my life where I didn't have the time before, or where I didn't allow myself to have the time to focus upon it or upon them. And that is actually the whole topic of sensuality, femininity, sensuality. No, I said twice sensuality, sexuality, and femininity. So those are the ones. And of course, these topics have been part of my life throughout. But as I'm in a sabbatical since a good long period of time now, I had more time to focus on them. I was like, my hypothesis is each one of us, we have manifold facets in our personality. And while we live the life we are living, we are able to develop some of these facets. But that means that others are not growing, because it's just not possible. Yeah. So I was focusing for over a decade on certain facets of my personality and of my character, and they were able to flourish, and I was able to develop there. And at a certain point, I decided, okay, but that is not only that. No, that's not. I'm more than that. There's more to the game. Yeah, there are more things to discover. And as I do not only like to discover other cultures and other countries, but I also do like to discover people, and also myself. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of personal growth and personality development. So I wanted to give myself space. And when I opened up the space, once I decided to take a sabbatical, the things popped up. The dancing popped up. I didn't decide I go for a sabbatical because I want to do this and this and this. No, I decided it's time for a sabbatical. I need time for myself. And then I see what pops up. And then the dancing popped up. And topics like sensuality, sexuality, femininity, you name it, passion, eroticism, like everything in this field. But at least that is how it got started. And I had more and more interest to discover myself, and I had more and more interest to talk about that with other ladies, with other women. That was the start. And so what I did is in September 2019, like 1.5 years ago, I said, okay, if you want to talk with different women about their experience, and if you want to learn from their experience, if you want to share your own experience, then just go for it. It doesn't have to be highly professional. It doesn't have to be somewhere outside. No, I can also start with those ones I know, and I can invite them home. So and that's what I did. And so the Sensual Talk started. Actually, at the beginning, the name I gave the whole baby was Ladies Talk, because I didn't have a name. I didn't care about the name. I cared about the meeting, sitting together. And and I started with I selected around about 25 women I knew, like friends and colleagues and friends from, I don't know, lifelong friends from I only knew like half a year from dancing, and since then, I'm kind of organizing and running the Sensual Talks once a month, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've had to go then you had to adapt it because of Corona, and it's gone into online, I guess, in many cases. Um, but I mean, it's fascinating because you talk about many topics there. You haven't gone into too much detail, and that's fair enough. So that's for me to try to pry out. But I mean, before we get to that, do you still sense that a lot of women consider this topic uncomfortable? Do you get that feeling still?
Yes, definitely. Yes. And I also have some hypothesis on that, why that is. Yeah.
Do we have to be members to find out, or can
No. Like, the point is that if you want me to get started, I could talk for an hour without stopping. But I don't want
cool.
to just run over you.
Feel free. Don't worry about it. I'll bounce up.
Because this is like really like it's a hard thing. Like it really comes from my heart. Like what I'm doing there. So okay.
Well, let's go one sort of step at a time, because I don't want to give away the entire game in one go, because because I would also like for you to come back and keep talking about these kinds of topics. But on top of that, I think people should there are going to be people who listen to this and are going to be genuinely intrigued. And I think that they need to get an experience of it. They need to speak with you. They need to interact with you and your groups. And this should be like a sort of entryway to it. And so that's, for that reason, we should, go sort of slowly into that wonderful household that you have presented there for them.
Then I just would elaborate a little bit on the development, like what I did in the last 1.5 years, like very, very slowly. So in September 2019, I organized what I called a ladies' matinee. So I invited the ladies to my house for nice food in a nice atmosphere, and where my main focus was to provide like a kind of a safe space and a positive space, like that I want people, or I would love people to talk about these issues in a very positive way, without all this filthy, difficult connotation it sometimes has. So that's at least where I got started. And I don't have, for example, when I invite for such a sensual talk, I don't have a topic. I don't give a topic, and I don't play the moderator. What I do is I try to kickstart, because mostly the ladies don't know each other. I mean, now, some of them, they know each other, so it's a big hello, you're back, so nice to see you, and also friendships have developed throughout the sensual talk, which is magnificent, which is amazing. So and and I did not change to online. So I did I did in September and October and November 2019, I did the Sensual Talk, and then beginning of last year as well. And then when COVID hit us, I decided purposely against going online, because I felt that for this topic, no, I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. I had the feeling everybody was going online with every kind of thing, and I didn't. So what I decided was, I want to stay in touch, and I would like to offer to even more ladies to be like a part of it, or to contribute, or to come together and contribute with their experience, that I started a little newsletter. All very unprofessional. It's an email. I call it newsletter. I actually called it a treasure trove, where I put links and hints of documentaries, of books, of home pages, everything around the topic of sensuality, sexuality, etc. Yeah, and I got really a nice feedback, so that is why I kept doing it. Yeah. So, and that is how, and then when we were allowed again, then last year in summer, I restarted with Sensual Talk. And then in winter, we've been hit again last winter with the lockdown. And as we were allowed to meet one-on-one, I offered a thing called Sensual Private. So private meaning, like, if a lady would want to talk about whatever issue, she could come and visit me. Like, we would sit together and we would have a glass of wine or coffee or whatever, and we would talk and exchange, you know. And there were ladies who came, who were interested in, which I very much liked and I appreciated. And maybe because I don't think I stated it clearly enough, at least not for my gusto, is when I say I want to talk about sensuality and femininity and sexuality, my aim, my personal aim is that I want to live my sensuality and my femininity and my sexuality in a way which pleases me, which is good for me and which I like. And I wish this for every other person as well. And that is where I very, very quickly opened up the at least the thoughts. I couldn't put it on the ground yet. Like I couldn't realize it yet through COVID-19. But I mean, it's not only about ladies, you know, like, and I don't. It's not an exclusive thing. So actually, I don't only want to talk with women. I also would like to talk with people who feel like a woman or who live their feminine side. I also would like to talk with men about these topics. I would actually like to talk with like LGBTQ plus people, you know, like that. That would be like, I said before, I really like diversity, and I believe in the power of diversity, and this is something I really need to think about. How can I reach out to people who would be interested, to exchange, to open up in a safe environment, so that we can, like, I would have tons of questions I like everybody. If we would meet up for a Sensual Private or whatever, I mean, I would like bombard you with questions, you know, like in general, I'm aiming. I would love to talk with human beings between 12 and 112 years old, of any kind of religion, of any kind of nationality, social background. I don't care. Your gender, like I don't care are you a mother, a father? Do you have children? Do you not have children? Do you consider yourself asexual, or I don't know. I'd love to talk about these topics with people with disabilities. I'd love to talk with women who who faced already the menopause. You know, there's I could go on and go on. I would love to talk with everybody who would be open and who has something to say about that. And sincerely, I believe every human being has to say something about this topic because it is so crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you started talking about your passion, the data transfer on Skype went down. It was almost as though the power with which you were communicating was affecting the data transfer. You are still there, I hope.
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Cool. Yeah. No. You went completely quiet, so I thought, oh God, what's happened here? Yeah, but I mean, what you mentioned, there is a specific idea that comes through, which is of almost sensual purity, because we sort of talked about before with regards to the comfort with which women communicate upon the subject of sensuality and sexuality and femininity. And when we were talking, in our planning session, as it were, and the topic came up about how the porn industry essentially has dominated the field of sex, and has painted it in a specific light. But your concept is completely different. It's you're not talking about trying to create a male-dominated, how should we say, short-termist approach to providing your access to the divine orgasm. You are talking about, just to mention it, you are talking about this essential belief which basically says people have the right to be able to enjoy themselves, their humanity, their bodies in a clean way, and there should not be this negative thought process attached in doing so. We should be able to talk about this, openly almost.
Yeah.
No, is there this element to it?
Yeah, definitely. And the point is that we are very much constrained, and we are constraining ourselves as well. So one of a crucial question I'm also asking myself is which facets of sensuality do I really of my sensuality do I live? Do I incorporate, or have I incorporated into my life? And which ones not? And why not? And then I would say the apparello starts working. And mostly and this is based with talking on there have been around 50 women participating in the Sensual Talk so far, and talking with them, listening and observing is reading and discovering things in the last 1.5 years and even longer. I always bump into the things that if we in the field of sexuality and sensuality, if we don't allow us to or let me speak from myself, because I don't want to generalize, because I also believe this is a highly individual subject, so there are parts of my sensuality I did not live for a long time, or I'm not living yet, maybe, let's assume. And then why not? And then I bumped directly into two things, into shame and into fear. And into the conditioning system I'm living in, and I'm also bumping into the socialization I had, So, and then and these are actually limiting myself, or I am limiting myself through them. And sometimes it's really unconsciously, we
Yeah.
don't allow us to, or I didn't allow myself to fully live my fantasies,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't take them serious. I was like, yeah, there are some fantasies, that's not how it works, you know.
Yeah.
And there's one word I really disguise, and that is the word normal or normality. And specifically, if it comes to sexuality and sensuality, there is no normal sex. Sex is always, and sexuality is always, the intercourse between 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't care how many people, is always highly individual.
Mm. Yeah, it was a slightly different topic, but it brings up. So I hope we will stick to this topic. But when I was watching something called Mindhunter, where they talked about how the FBI produced its profiling for serial killers, one of the things that they had to look out for was sexual deviance. And they highlighted this by the terminology that were used, and they talked about blowjobs, they talked about hand jobs, and all of these kinds of things. And these were the social deviant things that were mentioned. And what is interesting was that towards the end of a certain process, they said, sorry, we've got to scrap all of these because none of these are deviant anymore. Humanity has actually moved on. If you engage in these activities, that doesn't make you a serial killer, because these have become very normal activities.
Yeah.
And the thing is that humanity does move on. We do move forward. Unfortunately, a lot of these steps forward in the topic of sensuality and indeed sexuality are taken hidden away, because exactly for the same reasons that you say, open society or open communities find it difficult to talk about these topics, which are completely, and should be the word that you hate, normal. Discourse on this kind of topic should be fundamental in our individual growth.
Yeah. It's like the elephant in the room,
Mm.
and nobody
Yeah.
talks about it. And it's so, for me, it's so, I would even say it's funny if it wouldn't be so sad that it's easier for people, like, I have the impression that it's easier for people to talk about porn than to talk about their own desires. And yeah, I absolutely agree on what you just said, that things changed a lot. You mean between me being a teenager and the teenagers of today and the teenagers in between, things changed. When I was a grown up, we had this video cassettes, VHS cassettes, and you had this shops where you could go and you could borrow them, And in my hometown, we had quite a big one, and so you entered, and then to the right was the door for the family, like the family section.
Mm-hmm.
And then to the left was the porn section, which was like the male section, which is interesting enough, because I mean there are also enough ladies and women who like to watch porn. But anyway, so back then, and if you in the 80s wanted to watch a porn, that is how you did that, you made it yourself, or you went to get a VHS. And now, since many years, like we have YouPorn, etc. What I usually what I once stated is that for me at least, that is true. Like I had my first sexual experiences first, and then only years later I watched the first porn. So and now we are actually in a situation, and you can read it that they are also scientific researchers working on that, that you have many young people watching first porn and not one or two, like consuming it like in a regular base, and then after a couple of years having their first own sexual intercourse or experience. And I don't know what it does, but I really believe it makes a difference.
Yeah, I once read an article about this, and the article actually exposed the possibility that watching or consuming too much porn actually removed from individuals the ability to make love or have sex themselves, because they have in their ideas these amazing situations that the actors there find themselves in, conducting certain activities. And sort of men tend to, because normally it's the men that have the problem actually doing the job, find themselves questioning whether or not, God, will she react in that way? Because in their mind, the person has to scream and go absolutely crazy on this, and that doesn't happen. Why didn't you say anything? So essentially, okay, porn has a certain excitement element attached to it, but there are dangers as well. And so therefore being completely reliant upon that for sensual development is perhaps misleading and unfortunate.
Yeah. The thing is, you continue going for outside validation, outside orientation, instead to watch inside and to feel your body. I mean, as I said, for like, in my opinion, like my sensuality and my sexuality is highly individual. Of course, there are also other human beings, other women who feel maybe the same, or we would have the same preferences also. But at the end of the day, it's what I if I have an orgasm and I want to scream out loud for 10 minutes, then I want to do so. But if I'm having an orgasm and I just want to be quiet, because that's how I feel in that moment, then I want to, without being under pressure to perform in a certain way, because that is considered normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much to talk about this kind of topic, and I really hope that we go further along those lines as well. One other element, because I tend to put 1 hour more or less as the limit that people have to be able to concentrate. Though I have a feeling some people will be wide awake into this hour, listening, sort of hanging on every word that you say, Tanja. But one other question: how generally do the sessions go? So you've mentioned a few details. You mentioned that you ask questions of people. Do you sense a certain reluctance at the beginning? I know you guide them and you talk about yourself and you make them feel comfortable. But for example, if there is a lady that listens to this podcast and says, oh, I want to speak to Tanja. I want to have a session. I want to know what how I can overcome these issues, how I can move in a certain sensual direction where I can actually start to appreciate myself rather than judging myself. How would you, for example, proceed with if somebody were to make contact with you, a stranger perhaps, how would you then sort of guide them through the process?
So what I do is that I start the introduction with underlining or stressing that everything can, nothing is a must. Like if somebody wants to join the Sensual Talk, for example, or is interested in talking to me, then let's talk about the Sensual Talk. Like, just because you're coming to the Sensual Talk doesn't mean that you have to reveal something. You can just sit there and listen. And that's how you participate. And that is also what happened. I had ladies coming, and they were listening. They were all awake, all there, all very present, but they didn't share things from themselves, and that's fine. And then you have others who really have like, I have this topic, and this is why I'm thinking of just for weeks, or which I don't know, just came up the last days, and they are coming up with that. What I always state is that we are amongst us. There is a certain degree of confidentiality, and I don't know. I mean, in the field of international relations and international policy, there is a rule called the Chatham House Rule, and this rule states that when you have a meeting under the Chatham House rules, the participants are free to use the information received and shared, but not the identity nor the affiliation of the speaker or of other participants can be revealed. You know, so like if I had a sensual talk with, let's say, 8 ladies, then I would not say, I don't know, Susan said that, yeah, or somebody would not say Tanja said that, yeah, but I would say one of the ladies stated, yeah, or I was one friend said. And the thing is that this is not, it's confidential, but it's not in the sense that it shouldn't be hidden. I mean, I want the ladies to go out to share it with their friends, their partners, with their daughters, their sons, their nieces, their aunts, their uncles, with like everyone they want to talk about it, you know, to spread the word. And the only thing is just not to finger point like this person said that and that. And another thing which comes sometimes up is like, because I have so far around about 80 ladies in the email distribution list, and most of them I know like very well, or I know some of their partners as well. And then, for example, a friend of mine once said, like, Tanja, I would really like to talk with you about this a particular issue, but I don't want to because I want to be loyal to my partner, because you know my partner, and I don't feel good if I tell you or I share in the sensual talk what issue I'm having at the moment. So, and then my advice or my suggestion is always like, okay, we are all grown up. Like the youngest participant so far was 27 and the oldest over 70. You don't have to say my current partner, my husband, you know, you could say, in my life, I had this issue, yeah, or a friend of mine had that issue, you know what I mean? So you can cover it up a bit. You don't have to like drop it all. Yeah. So that is how I try to make my guests to feel safe and comfortable.
I mean, and also I guess a part of the whole process is that people, you know, get used to the topic themselves and become comfortable talking about the topic. So therefore, if you have this element of secrecy about it, that defeats the whole purpose. But obviously, confidentiality, that's a different matter. So I'm sure lots of people have enjoyed the sessions with you, especially in knowing that there are no negative comebacks to them as a result of their participation.
Yeah, so far everything went smooth.
Yeah, cool. It's such a great thing. And I mean, when we talked, I mentioned it at the time, you know, I'm so supportive of everything which provides for the empowerment of women and other genders. And I think in all of the podcasts I've done before, sensuality has not been a topic that I've covered. And I'm very happy that you are the one to deliver that topic, because you are uniquely placed because of the platform that you want to give people to discuss that. And it's great to hear about it, that this is perhaps a door opening for many people. And it's a door which should never have been closed, but it's better late than never. If you say you have a lady who's over 70, that gives us all hope, does it not?
Yeah. It's a lifelong topic, for me, sensuality is a value in life, and that is not only in connection with sexuality. It's like sensuality is like wearing a nice top, is what you eat, like using your senses, in any kind of way. And I would really like to sensitize myself even more, and also others, and for that I'm seeking the exchange. I'm seeking exchange to listen of the experiences of other people, and to share mine if there is an interest. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And when you do expand it to also include people who are not women, could you add my name to the list? Because it's definitely something I would like to.
If you are interested, I'd love to add you to the distribution list.
Yeah, please, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. Yeah, definitely add me to the list. Okay. Tanja, so we'll leave the first part there with the hope that we will be able to continue and delve deeper into the topics that you've raised today. So what can I say? Thank you. What you're doing is great. The way you do it is great, and the manner in which you communicate your character and your intentions is fascinating.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Zach, and thank you so much for having me. And to everybody who's listening, thanks for taking the time to listening. Yeah, and I'd love to be back. I mean, we only tipped the iceberg. It's like there's so much more to talk about.
That's wonderful. I'm gonna try to record your giggle there, because it's an intoxicating laugh, and it's suggestive of the person that you are. You want to have fun, and that's what that laugh says. It's I want to have fun, and it's brilliant. It's pure. So yeah, thank you.